what in the world? I'm a writer now? Like, it just really blew my mind. But I never thought about taking my business to that level or doing. I didn't even want to write. That was something that Dre done got me doing. I'm like, all right, sure. And so I started writing on A Game magazine, and then I started to get a lot of great feedback about my writing in the sports realm. And so I said, you know what? This social media website is not really working. Let me see if I could just shift my focus a little less from that, trying to do that, to more of a blogging, website type site. And so I shifted it over to more so a strictly type blog site. And so I started doing really well. I was writing for A Game magazine. I was writing on my site. I was getting hundreds and hundreds of people coming to my site every day. And I'm like, yo, this cool. So now I'm sitting there trying to figure out, what could I do next? Couldn't figure it out. I didn't know about SEO, that's search engine optimization, and getting paid for your site and all of that. I didn't know about all that at the point in time. And so then my boy Brandon reached out to me. I didn't know him at the time, but it's a funny story because I was connected to somebody on Twitter that knew him, and he saw my work on Twitter. And it just so happens about the same week that he saw my work on Twitter, my mom was in the barbershop, my little brother, and overheard, him talking about his sports talk radio show. And she started being my mom. What she do, she talks. But it's a good talk, yo. So she started talking to him. I was like, yeah, my son, he writes for sports. And come to find out, he already knew who I was because, somebody I was connected to on Twitter had told him about me. And so he hit me up and was like, yo, would you like to come in and be a special guest host on a show? He had a show called Sports Track Radio. He was like, what, would you like to be a guest host and see how you like it? And, possibly be a co-host with me on the show. And I'm like, sure, no doubt. So now I went from having a love for sports, having a passion about sports, trying to figure out a way to get paid in some way, shape, or form from this, because I wanted to be present in my kids' lives. And so I started this website, wasn't doing well, did little things different. People started to notice, people started to reach out, and then I went from just having a love and a passion for sports to writing for a magazine and being on sports talk. So it just completely transformed, and it felt like it was overnight. It probably was overnight, and sometimes it be like that, yo. Everybody talk about the overnight success and all the work that a lot of people put in. Like, I didn't put a lot of time in before I got to that point, but I was putting in work every single day. And so, I started doing the sports talk thing, and it was good. Was having a good time. Started to connect with a lot more people, and because I had a large following on Twitter, I was connected with a lot of, professional athletes, NFL players, NBA players. And so I started to just grow from that. And then somebody I was connected to on Twitter started telling me about Yahoo. And he like, yeah, they always looking for writers on Yahoo. So I reached out to Yahoo and applied for a position on Yahoo. And come to find out, they accepted it. I'm like, oh shoot, now I'm writing for Yahoo. And I'm like, okay. And that's like, I'm getting paid for that now. And so I went from, just playing around, loving sports, having a site, writing on my friend's magazine. And I wasn't getting paid for that, but I didn't want to get paid for it anyway. I was helping her out. And at the same time, I was, growing myself and becoming better at my craft. And so I wasn't looking to get paid. And so I got to that place where I'm like, yo, I'm getting paid to write about sports. And everybody knew how much I love sports. And it was just like a dream come true for me. And I'm like, wow. So I'm writing on Yahoo. I'm writing on my website. And Yahoo had different classes and courses that they had on their website, for all of the writers that was on their site, to learn more about writing and, the differences between a online type publication and how to attract people as opposed to a print publication and how to attract people, which is completely different writing styles. And so I'm learning all of this. And then, search engine optimization and how to make your articles and your posts more attractive for people to actually click on it. And how to create more clicks and how to get paid per click. And I'm like, so I'm learning all this stuff just from that opportunity. And so I started to do more things on my website, and I started to implement search engine optimization on my website. And then I started to get crazy amounts of clicks. And so I'm getting paid from Yahoo, I'm getting paid on my website through Google Ads. And then I'm like, this is dope. I'm getting paid to write about sports, and I wasn't at that point where I was getting paid enough to quit my job, but I was still growing, and other publications started reaching out to me, so I started writing for other publications, Pro Football Writers of America, a few other football sites and magazines. I was doing shows with a lot of my friends who was connected to ESPN, and I'm just all of a sudden turned into this big time sports guy. And it's like, what in the world? It was crazy for me, y'all. It was really crazy for me. And so I reached out to Yardbarker because I wanted to continue to grow, continue to put my work out there to be seen. And at that point in time, before I started working with people that work for ESPN, I always wanted to work for ESPN. That was like the sports everything, the sports mecca. And I'm like, if I could work for ESPN, I'm that dude. And so that was my goal, get to ESPN. And I was headed there quick. But then I started working with people that work for ESPN. And I'm like, I don't really want to work for ESPN. I just don't like the vibe that I'm getting from the people that work there. So I reached out to Yardbarker. And Yardbarker is an affiliate of Fox Sports. And so what happened was I reached out to Yardbarker, showed them the content on my site, and what ended up happening from there was my website was then syndicated on Yardbarker, which was a Fox Sports affiliate. So now I'm getting paid through Google Ads on my site. I'm getting paid through articles on Yahoo. I'm getting paid because my website was now being syndicated on Fox Sports, which was under Yardbarker. And so now I'm getting paid 3 different ways. So anytime somebody clicks on my article on Yahoo, on my site, or on Yardbarker, I was getting paid. And so it was just opening up so many avenues for me. And I'm like, wow, this is amazing. This is amazing. And so I'm getting paid. And then, experiences, life happens. I'm writing. I'm doing all of that. I'm doing sports talk radio. I had this show with Brandon, Sports Track Radio. I was featured on probably about 3 or 4 other sports talk shows throughout the week. So I'm just going in sports all day, every day. And I was always one of those people who could not stand listening to uneducated sports people talk. And so I made sure I was an educated sports person. So I would research, I would study, I would watch games, not just the highlights. I would watch games. So I was dedicating, literally it felt like 27 hours out my day to sports. And I know it's only 24 hours in a day, but I don't even think I slept much. And there's people that can tell you I used to be going in, when they went to sleep, I was up writing, I was up watching sports, watching games. When they woke up, I'm still up writing, watching highlights, watching old games, clips, everything. So I'm like going in. And then, my father got sick and he passed away, and I just lost the passion, like immediately. I started to realize that sports was not everything. It became a place where it felt like it was everything. So, I had stopped working at my job. So then now I was pretty much doing sports full time. I wasn't getting paid as much as my job was paying me, but it was keeping me. And then my father passed away, and the passion just completely dwindled. It just was gone. And so I could care less about sports. I stopped writing. I stopped doing sports talk because I just didn't care about sports anymore. It was more important things than sports. And I feel like I was just missing out on everything because sports was taking so much of my time. And so, I started to get into that place where I started to seek God and seek a better relationship with God and really get to know God on a higher level. And so God started showing me different things about my purpose. And, so I started to seek out how to please God and how to do what God is calling me to do. And so, I started doing different things. But at that point in time, HIV was a major part of my life. My father passed from complications due to HIV and AIDS. And, my best friend at the time, I found out that she was HIV positive. And my best friend at the time was Lynette, who is now my wife. And so HIV became a major aspect of my life. And so I dedicated my life to HIV at that time. And so I started educating on HIV and doing speaking engagements and workshops and seminars, whatever it was, HIV related. We were just out there educating the people. And so that's where it ended up going. And, looking at everything that had happened, trying to figure out what I was called to do, what I was supposed to do, how I was supposed to be effective and efficient in my life. And so I started doing the things that, God was really calling me to do after I got that relationship with Him. And so HIV was it. And, I still am in the HIV field. I don't talk about it as much because, in the meantime of all of that, other things happened to me. And so, I started my nonprofit organization, the Homie Foundation. And that was, due to my nephew being murdered and my brother, losing his life. And just the impact that the streets have had on me. And so I figured, because I was called at the same time, but I figured that, the streets have impacted me in this way. And I feel the way that I feel about the streets. And I don't want people to feel how I feel. I don't want people to feel this hurt and pain that I feel from losing two of the closest people in my life. And so I wanted to do something that could avoid that. And so that's why the Homie Foundation was founded, to really clean up the streets in multiple ways. And, my mission is to clean up the streets in our community, both literally and figuratively, by doing, community cleanups and beautification projects, as well as promoting love, entrepreneurship, financial literacy, and mindset shifting. And so, all of that just to recreate the village and, bring people back together as one and to build our communities and make our communities stronger and more productive, where, we are doing the things that need to be done and getting people off the street and giving them different opportunities and ideas to go out and be successful, productive humans in this society, and just not continue to be a part of the cycle and to be a part of negative side of the statistics. And so I just do that, and I focus hard on that because that it's a major part of my life. And mindset shiftology is just something that, came along during that whole process of, finding myself, finding my purpose, figuring out how to be effective in that ministry of my purpose to, go out there and do the things that God is calling